Hello and welcome to the Petticoated Swashbuckler. My name is Maren and today I'm going to show you how one may look when visiting Bath for the weekend. So I just came home from Bath and I had such an amazingly lovely time. I met new friends and old friends. I spent some days in the just gorgeous, stunning city of Bath in just gorgeous, stunning summer weather. And yeah, just had a blast, had a ball, you could say. So just in case you're new to my channel, welcome. I've just attended a Victorian ball in Bath in the UK. It's usually arranged in Bath in early May by Isabella Pitcher of Prior Attire, and this year the time frame for this ball was for the first bustle period, so from 1868 till 1876, so quite a narrow period. I have made a ball gown, go have a look at that if you want. But it wasn't just a ball, it was also a walk on Friday evening, it was dancing lessons on Saturday, and there was a Sunday breakfast in the pump room. And what should one wear to that? So for a bit of historical context, most women probably didn't own a lot of clothes in the 1870s. A work dress, a best dress, maybe a third dress. However, most women didn't go to balls. So I would have to think, you know, what would a sort of upper middle to lower upper class woman wear on a daily basis, like just for a walk, for a dancing class, or for a fancy breakfast. And most women of that class probably changed at least like 3 to 4 times a day. She would change out of a nightgown in the morning into a wrapper, which is a sort of glorified morning or like dressing robe. And that's just for like hanging out at home, having breakfast, doing light chores, that sort of thing. Then going out, she would need some sort of day dress or walking outfit. And then if nothing happened in the evening, she might just change into like a tea gown, which is still fancy. I made a tea gown. I made a 1905 tea gown. And it's still fairly fancy, but it's quite comfy. And that's just for like having quiet dinner or for meal, you know, just hang out at home, and basically loungewear. If, however, she was having guests or going out or attending some sort of event, she would be wearing like an evening gown, a dinner gown, or a ball gown. So I already have a wrapper for just hanging out at we've rented like a holiday apartment thing for a couple of nights, just for hanging out there. I have a wrapper. It's 1860s instead of 1870s, but it still works fine and it's so comfy. However, a lady wouldn't wear a wrapper to have breakfast in public, and definitely not for like going on a walk. So what can I wear for that? A walking suit. And I have a walking suit. I made one last summer. I'm super happy with it. It's red and yellow wool with some green and brown and yellow trim, and it's really cool. I love it. But I thought it'd be fun to like add maybe like an extra overskirt or an extra waistcoat front, just to changing up a little bit. Just, you know, just for a little variation. It's also fairly deep cut, like it's cut down to here, so I would definitely need to be wearing something underneath it for daytime. And you know, I don't think I can fit an entire like shirt underneath, so chemisette, which is almost like a full shirt front, perfect. Just not the one I wore in August, because that's actually a Regency chemisette, and it worked, but it's not perfect. So I would like some extra, you know, accessories. I would like some chemisettes. And then I would need some sort of outerwear, some sort of coat, a cloak, and a hat. So my plan was to use this to kind of update my day outfit a little bit with some extra accessories and a coat and a hat. So let's get into it. Now, first of all, I was very annoyed at how well you see the boning in my caged bustle in some of the pictures from August. So I need a petticoat. I used a truly Victorian pattern and a stiff cotton poplin. I made the waistband as like a drawstring casing and inserted a drawstring, just like a lace. Kind of wish in retrospect that I had made like a hook and eye closure instead, because there's already a drawstring on my caged bustle underneath, but I may change that later. It worked fine. I also realized when I was trying the petticoat with my ball gown skirt for an earlier video, I realized that you can see like bits of my petticoat under the ball gown. So I had to go in and like add a couple extra pin tucks, which is not my most pretty work because the skirt was very big and difficult to handle at this point, but no one's really gonna see it. It works fine. You can always add extra pin tucks. And with the petticoat down, it was time to move on to the chemisettes. Again, a truly Victorian pattern. Again, cotton poplin. I made a couple different ones. The main construction is very similar. 2 front pieces and 1 back piece attached to the shoulders and around the waist with a waistband with some sort of collar and then some sort of closure in the front. I made one with a very simple shaped stand and plain front. I didn't actually end up using this, but my friend Torunn did, so I'm so glad I brought it. I also made one with a pointed fall and a gathered front, and this was the most successful of them, and I wore this for the Friday evening promenade. For our Sunday breakfast, I wore one with a large fall and tucked front, and I love the tucks, but the colour was a little too large for my bodice. I think that with a bodice that's not as high in the neck, it would work better. And because I had so much time, I really didn't. I decided to make 2 pairs of like separate undersleeves too. The gathered undersleeves with the shaped cuff look lovely, but the buttons broke as I was putting them on, so I ended up not using those. I did, however, wear a pair of more fitted sleeves with a wide, quite simple cuff on Friday, and I think they, together with the chemisettes, made my outfit look very classy. Finally, I decided to make an extra overskirt and waistcoat for the breakfast. I had some cotton twill that I thought would go well with the rest of the outfit. It's kind of palish green. The waistcoat was very simply done, just stitching 2 and 2 pieces together, turning, pressing, hemming with some bias tape, trimming and adding hooks and eyes. I realized as I put it on that I put hooks and eyes too far down. Like, it's not supposed to be closed all the way down. It's supposed to be closed from about here and down to like waist level, but that's not a problem. I just could not close the bottom ones. The overskirt was made using a black snails pattern. I trimmed it in a pretty green turquoise and brown fringe that I found. And I even made a parasol pocket. I never got to use that pocket because a seagull decided to treat my parasol as a public bathroom before we got to Sunday. But you know, I have it now. I can put my parasol in it later when it's clean and dried. Still, I felt very cute and stylish for our breakfast and our subsequent wander around in Bath. Now for outerwear, I used the truly Victorian pattern for a Talma wrap for my coaty thing, and that worked a treat. I made up in no time, and it is so cute. Even though it's fully lined and it's trimmed with fringe and braid, it was still fairly quickly done. And the pleats in the back and the waistband that fits the back to the back of the wearer just makes this garment look very cute, I think. And the hat was made to match. Just a small short hat meant to be worn very, very far forward on the head, as I'd seen in fashion plates. I stitched the hat all by hand because when things are that small and fiddly, I just find it more easy than to try and jam it under my machine. I stitched white with buckram in strategic places. I covered the whole thing with brown wool to match the cloak and the day outfit, and then I stitched the crown and the brim together. And the only real change I made to the pattern was to add a lining, and that's simply because my buckram was so rough that I was worried that every time I took my hat off it would take tufts of my hair with it. So I just trimmed it very simply with the same cotton I'd used for the wrap. And I decorated it fairly simply with just a ribbon and a braid and some goose feathers from the geese of my friend Marion. Sadly enough, the wrap is the only garment that didn't get any use in Bath. Well, the wrap and the big gathered sleeves that broke when I tried to put them on. For the wrap, it's simply because when I planned and made these outfits, we had like winter, or at least very, very early spring in Norway. But this was like a summery 25 degrees Celsius, which I think is like 77 Fahrenheit or something. And I would have died with a wool wrap on. And that would have been very sad, especially for me, but you also wouldn't be getting any more updates. So be grateful. Still, I am really happy with it, and I hope I'll get to wear it some other time. And the hat was brilliant, and that got a lot of wear. So that was my little wardrobe update. I've used, apart from the poplin that I bought for my petticoat, I've used only scraps that I had lying around. I had some brown wool left over. I had some cotton twill left over. I even used the rest of the cotton poplin from the petticoat to make the chemisettes and the sleeves. So I'm very happy with that. Cost me very little, which is good because we visited a couple of antique stores and also the Victoria and Albert Museum gift shop. So yeah, it wasn't the cheapest of vacations. Anyway, that was the wardrobe update. My next video will be a sort of summary of the ball weekend, I think, before we move on to a new ambitious project. But until then, bye.